Hello. Yeah, it's February the 21st that I'm actually recording this. I'm hoping to get to a coffee shop or something tomorrow and send it out because I don't have internet here in the Galilee. But I just really felt that the Lord caught my attention on something yesterday, and it's an issue that I really believe requires prayer at this moment. And because I don't have access to the internet here, it's hard for me to type up something. So I'm going to try and type something in when I get to the mall, but include this video as well. And what the issue is, what the big concern is that America's been negotiating with Iran concerning nuclear weapons and their right or restriction of being able to have those nuclear weapons should be allowed. And these negotiations have been going on for a long time. Israel has been very concerned and has even threatened to take unilateral action on their own and attack Iran, but America has instructed Israel not to do it because they would not stand with her. And we've now come to a place where on March the 24th, these negotiations are supposed to come to an end, and it looks like America is going to allow Iran to continue to purify plutonium to the grade that's necessary to make nuclear weapons. And Israel is very vehemently been against this because of the threats that Iran has continuously made, that when the time comes and they have possessed the weapons, they said they will wipe us off the face of the map. And so Netanyahu was extended an invitation by the Republican leader of Congress about a month and a half ago, and he accepted. And there's been just a tremendous storm of activity since then. The White House has begun to distance themselves from Israel and started making some very strong threats that if Netanyahu goes ahead with this time to go and speak to the joint meeting of Congress, that they would actually begin to take and put sanctions in place against Israel. They would actually begin to distance themselves. And they just recently, yesterday or on Friday, the threat was made that the UN will be more than in its right to go ahead with unilateral actions to create a Palestinian state, and that Israel would be in, if she thought she was in a harder place now, then the threat is that, and the suggestion was that even America may back these kinds of sanctions and the unilateral move to create a Palestinian state, which would include Jerusalem as their capital. And it's not that I don't think Netanyahu, I know many people have put a lot of hope and faith and trust in him, and I've put a lot of hope and faith and trust, actually all of my hope and faith and trust in Yeshua. And Netanyahu continuously, when he has the opportunity, says that he is more than favorable to create a Palestinian state. He has some small conditions, but I'll tell you, any kind of a Palestinian state is going to be suicidal for Israel. And I think he even understands that. But that's another issue for another day. But on March the 3rd, he's been invited and he's going, even though the President of the United States has asked him not to go. And the suggestion is that it was not appropriate that a Prime Minister of Israel would come that close to an election. There will be an election on March the 17th in Israel for who will rule the country in the days ahead. But the truth is in the past, when Clinton was the president, that an Israeli prime minister went to the United States just prior to an election then as well, and it seems that that's all been forgotten. That was a Democratic president then as well. But now they're saying it's not a good thing. But Israel is very much concerned about what's happening, and because Congress now is Republican controlled, the hope is that they could actually prevent this deal from going through. And it just, as I was pondering all of this and praying a couple of days ago, I just felt God nudge me and remind me of something. On March the 4th, the next day, is what we call Purim here in Israel. It's the day that was assigned, which is on the Jewish calendar, is the 13th of Adar. And Haman, many, many centuries ago, it's recorded in the book of history. In history, it is history, sorry, in the book of Esther, that all the Jews were to be killed on that day. And it was sealed with the king's ring, and the whole story of Esther leads us to the place where Esther goes in and seeks the help of the king to prevent this order from killing all of the Jews. And you know, the thing I was thinking even before, just before I started making this video, is that Haman, even though he lived in Persia, which is today modern-day Iran, he was not a Persian. He was an Agagite. He was actually from this part of the world, closer to Israel, and I liked some of the influence of this, that One Night with the King, the movie that was produced a few years ago. And the movie begins by Samuel, who was given orders by God and directed to go and destroy the Amalekites and to destroy the king and the queen. And the king's name was Agag. And a lot of people believe that Haman, as an Agagite, is actually a descendant of Agag. The movie of Esther begins with the queen getting away, and she's pregnant, and her descendants of this child, and brings us to Haman. It's not all there in Scripture, but it's a very good possibility. That's exactly how it happened. But the point I'm trying to make is that the President Obama is a man that's now standing in a place where he's negotiating and ultimately looks like he's going to allow Iran to go ahead and produce plutonium that will give them weapons-grade plutonium to create nuclear weapons in the very near future. Truth is, there's a good possibility they already may possess a couple right now. And we're hoping they don't, but for sure, if they ever got the capability, the desire to destroy Israel is very much there. And here we have, again, a non-Persian working together with Persia, which is Iran today, on this whole question, and it's very serious. Israel is even in the media regularly, our leaders have been saying that if we don't get the cooperation of America, we will unilaterally even consider preempting and striking Iran to destroy their nuclear facilities. And just from understanding all of the atmosphere and how Iran now has a military arm in southern Lebanon, in Syria, in Gaza, how very much this will spark a regional war, especially if the United States and some of the other Western nations were not aligned with us. And it's time. Israel needs to know what God is saying. And I just want to ask the people of faith now in this short little video that you would actually bow your knee in prayer. We are in a very critical time. There are many things that are just coming together piece by piece here in the Middle East. ISIS is advancing and actually beginning to surround Israel. And Jordan right now, the king of Jordan is very concerned that ISIS is going to infiltrate and attempt to take over Jordan as well. And these men are operating in a satanic power. It's not just bad guys with weapons. These guys are demonized to the point where the fear that they bring as they approach their targets is that in Iraq, Iraqi soldiers have just dropped their weapons and started to run because of the fear that's in the spirit. And we as believers need to get on our knees. Time is very short. It's very short, and we can't stand back anymore. You know, when Yeshua, just before the crucifixion, he took some of the disciples with him to Gethsemane, and he asked them to just be with him as he prayed. And even though they understood the sorrow of the hour, if you look in Matthew, what did they do? They fell asleep as the King of Glory was preparing to present himself as a lamb for crucifixion. And I really believe we're in a very critical hour right now. And it's definitely not a time to be sleeping. We got to shake ourselves, stir ourselves awake, and start to pray. And as this threat towards Israel looms very real and very big, it's a threat that not only threatens Israel, but the whole world. Iran has been pursuing ballistic missiles that could reach the United States, and even have some now. So I just wanted to send this short little message out. Wanted to give you the relationship that Netanyahu's scheduled to speak on March the 3rd, and the following day at sundown begins Purim, which is the day that was scheduled for the Jews to be slaughtered by the Persians. And it was something that was orchestrated by an Agagite, a non-Persian. So there are some parallels there that seem to be fitting together, and it's this month. Purim also falls like just a month before Passover, and which is a blood moon that's coming again. And there are a number of things that are just integrating right now. And we see that the stakes are very high, and we do have the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty to tear down strongholds. And I just want to encourage the body of Christ that those weapons are within you. If you know Jesus and Yeshua lives within you, there's a weapon inside of you that's great, and that no enemy can defeat. And I just want to encourage each and every one of you to pull those weapons out, and probably the best position to hold that weapon is when we're on our knees, and just allow God to, by His Spirit, to come and groan and cry out through you, because there is a victory. It's within us, and we just need to now position ourselves that we can declare that victory and see it manifest, and see our enemies defeated, not only defeated, but even saved. You know, ISIS is brought a great amount of fear. But for us that know Yeshua and trust Him, we can even cry out, God, open their eyes. ISIS is not beyond salvation. These people that have been duped and deceived by the demonic are still candidates for salvation. Iran and the people of Iran, God wants dearly. He wants to rescue them. And Satan is setting out to stir up a war that will destroy them. So just thank you now for your prayers, and in just a few days, on March the 5th, actually the day after, Linda and I will be departing for Switzerland and then to France. to do some meetings there, and I would very much appreciate your prayers while we're gone between March the 5th and March the 18th. And we're believing that God's going to do something in France, in Switzerland. There are two nations that I really believe are on the heart of God, and He's preparing a move, and He's looking for a people that will stand tall on their knees and cry out. And we don't have the luxury of being quiet and going to sleep and watching these dangerous times come upon us. If we don't fight in this time, in that sorrow, in that place, in that cry, then the enemy may be knocking at our door next. So shalom, shalom, and thank you for your prayers.